everyone to the Sister Stories podcast. The aim of this podcast is to marvel at God's sovereignty over each of our lives as women and to encourage one another by sharing our stories. My name is Sophie and today I'm joined by Canitta.
Hi.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
So let's start with who you are really. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm Canitta. I'm a member of Cornerstone Church. I've been a member for about 4 years now, I think. How should I grew up kind of all over the place, really. I was born in England. I was born in London, but lived in Nigeria until I was about 5 or 6. Then moved back to England. Was in the Midlands for a bit, but then also I went to school, boarding school in Brighton.
Right.
So
okay,
I've
so
kind of
loads
been
of
all over the
places.
place, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
I am an assistant for production companies. I work for a film and TV company.
Right, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about your journey with the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to the beginning? So your family background and how it was when you grew up.
Yeah. So grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a vicar growing up. He was a clergyman. So I just grew up kind of in like family ministry because we were always at church. My dad ministered for the first part of his career in Nigeria. So my earliest memories of being in church were like in Nigeria, which was just kind of going to church, going to prayer meetings, just grew up around Christians. So grew up hearing about the Lord. Remember believing in Jesus from a young age. I don't think I remember like a specific time where I decided to give my life to Christ, but I just remember growing up believing in Him. And then my family moved to England, and then I went to boarding school in Brighton, and it was a COV boarding school, so there was lots of church activity that went on as well at school. It was quite it was back in the day, so it was quite involved in like chapel, and I was quite involved in all the religious stuff. So again, we still had a lot of Christian influence around me, which I think was really beneficial for me. And then so I went after school, went to university, and I think a lot of the Christian influence that I had around me kind of stopped.
Okay, so would you say that church was a big influence in your life, or was it just something you did and it was part of your routine almost?
I think both. It was just something that we did, but I think that fed into the fact that I feel like when I was younger, I generally did believe. So it did have a big impact on me. I think it was very, very beneficial for me to grow up in a Christian home. But it was also just life. So it was a bit of both.
Yeah. So was it not until university that you kind of realized you had different values to other people, or did that strike you before?
I think it struck me before. I think I was surrounded by a lot of people that were in that but weren't Christians as well. So I don't think I had a lot of Christian like friends growing up, because even though like I went to HCV school, I wouldn't say that my friends were Christians. At least not practicing Christians or like deeply believing Christians. They did Christian things, but so I think, sorry, what was the question?
How you noticed that difference in culture.
Almost,
yeah.
So I think I did notice it with friends growing up. I think at uni, I lost the structure of that. So it was more of like a discipline issue, right? And I think I benefited from that just being around me. And then when I wasn't around that, I didn't actively pursue it. So it kind of broke down. I think the belief was still there deep down, but then it wasn't as seen outwardly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. How, I wonder how things were at home as well, having your dad as the vicar of the church, and all of that, and with what you felt about that and how you related to that.
I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I liked being a church kid. I mean, there were parts of it that were annoying. Like, you always got volunteered for everything. And like, there were some times when you like, I just wanted to go. But I generally liked being around the church and things of the church. I think that was my natural disposition growing up. I think that was partly because I saw my dad do what it looked like he loved doing. And so being around that energy made it enjoyable for me. I think growing up, that I did see, I think we moved around a lot. We moved to lots of different churches. Like, we're in churches in Nigeria, and then we went to All Souls in London. That was part of our church. My mum and dad got married at that church, actually. And then there were churches, we went to about, the church my dad ministered at, he was a minister of 2 different churches in the Midlands, and then there was the church that I went to at school. So I experienced a lot of different church cultures.
Okay.
So I saw a whole bunch of different things and stuff, like the way people were done. And so yeah, I understood that the nuances of the different like churches and stuff like that. So and I think that helps me understand truly what I think religion was, because it wasn't just, I hadn't only just seen one thing. I've seen lots of different things. And the Bible also definitely helps and guides and shapes. And I think it was laying a foundation probably at my youth. I didn't realize at the time of just believing in the Bible that church will always look different, but fundamentally what's the most important thing is the Bible.
So you said you didn't realize that when you were young.
No, I think
you did.
I did. I don't think I realized that's what, I feel like I understood that just by seeing it. I didn't realize that that's what I was understanding as a child, obviously, but looking back, I think it was helpful to see lots of different types of churches. And
then maybe your understanding of the Bible grew later on, and,
and
you could come back to that and see actually it's not important to
to just focus on just one type of thing.
Exactly. Okay. What was it like at home as well? Because I assume with your dad being the vicar, you probably were doing things at home as well. Were you reading the Bible together, or as a family, or not so much?
We did. It was kind of a source of contention. We did used to have family prayers and family Bible time, but my siblings don't currently go to church. So I think that I remember Bible times at home always ended in a lot of contentions, and I think that's because my siblings didn't enjoy church, let's say. I think I had a very different experience to them, whereas I generally just liked it. I think they felt forced to go to church and forced to do Bible things, so it wasn't as enjoyable, or they had a completely different experience to me. So.
Are they younger than you? Or
older. I'm the youngest. Okay. So they're all older. Okay. Which will probably, if you ask them, makes a difference.
Who have you got in your family then?
So there are 2 boys and 2 girls. So I have 2 older brothers and an older sister. My eldest brother passed away a few years ago. So then it's just me and my other sister. My brother and my sister left.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are they in the UK as well? Or?
One's in America and my sister's in the UK. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. Great. So you said you were growing up in the church, and then how did your faith grow over the years, or did you move away from God? Did you come back? What happened next, basically?
Well, so school was all right. It was school, and I think the part where my faith actually probably broke down was during my uni years. And like I said, I think the starting point was that I stopped going to church, or I stopped being surrounded by the church or church things. And then that coupled with just the people I was surrounding myself with, they weren't believing Christians or churchgoers. I think that impacted my lifestyle a lot. And then I, looking back, just drifted more and more away from things of God. And then I think that's what happened.
Did you start university thinking I will look for a church, and actually it just never quite happened, or you just didn't really?
Yes, I did, and I think I did go to church a few times in first year. I found it was because I grew up Anglican, so that's kind of all that I knew. For the last, my school was Anglican, so I did find an Anglican church, but it wasn't. It was just kind of very old school, just on Sunday type of Anglican church. So there wasn't a lot of outreach or anything. And then I eventually stopped going. And then, I didn't really put enough energy or effort into finding like a good local church.
Yeah. I assume that if you're used to one denomination, maybe it's really difficult, especially when you're not surrounded by your family or other people that can point you in the right direction in a sense. Or help you at least to know, okay, actually you can go to this other church. So, it's tricky, isn't it?
I think also it was just the first time I was kind of on my own. Whereas before I was put into those my parents intentionally put me into environments where I could be at least surrounded by church things, which I think was really helpful. And this was the first time when I needed to go and put myself into that environment and be intentional about it. And I didn't think I realized the seriousness of how you do need to be really intentional about putting yourself in a church. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yes, I wonder what kind of brought you back to God.
Yeah, honestly, the Lord, really. It was.
Yeah, of course. Sorry.
Again, it was. I was, to be fair, looking back, I do find it weird now because I'm just like, what was that? Because obviously, no other explanation apart from the Holy Spirit. Literally,
exactly. Yeah.
There's no other explanation. But I remember distinctively lying on my friend's couch. Must have been a Saturday morning. And I just had this feeling drop into me. I just felt like something was wrong. Just something was just wrong and off. And I couldn't shake this feeling. And I was like, I don't know what this is. And then I was just like, I'm just going to go to church and pray. I don't know why I had that inclination. But I just felt like I knew that's what I needed to do. That was the next step. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I just need to go and give it to God. And in my mind, I think, in my mindset at that time, I think, again, this shows you how far I drifted. I was like, I'll pray, give it to God, and just carry on living my life. But Jesus had other plans.
Of course.
And so I went to church with my friend the next day. And I remember sitting at the back of the church and I was just crying, literally just weeping. I wasn't even sure why. But I just felt this like deep sorrow within me. And I was just really crying. And then there was an altar call. I was like, I'm already a Christian. But I just really felt like I had to put my hand up. And so I did. And I was just like, Lord, I'm sorry. I don't even know what's happened. And then I think from there, it was just like a slow process of the Lord just pulling me back to him. And then I tried to start going to church again. I started going to All Souls for a bit. But then, which was the church that my parents, when we lived in London, we used to go to. So I was like, okay, let me go back to the church that I knew of when I was growing up. But I lived in near Surbiton, so like I wasn't that committed to going all the way into central London at that time. So I kind of fell away from that. I think I went for a few weeks and then kind of stopped. And then the thing that I think the next proper turning point was when I picked up a book and I read a book called A Praying Life by, I can't remember who it's by.
I can't remember either.
Yeah. I can't remember.
It's all right.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's Tom. Is it Tom Miller or someone? I don't remember. But as A Praying Life, and I think that what changed for me was just that in that book, I think he just showed me Jesus, and I think I just fell in love with Jesus again, and yeah, reminded me of my first love, and I was just like, oh, it's Jesus. I need to go back to Jesus. That's what's been missing. And then I really wanted to get back. I didn't know what I needed, but I really wanted to get back just in church, in something. And so I called a friend of mine, the other friend I knew of at the time that was a Christian. And we started going through the book of Ephesians together. We'll meet up every week before work and just go through it chapter by chapter together. Yeah, which was really, really great. I felt like it was really encouraging to have like another Christian friend, another Christian sister to walk alongside with. I felt like my faith really grew at that point. And then eventually through that, I got convicted to start serving in church. So I started serving at the church I was going to at that time, which was still in central London. And then I was like, I really need to find a local church. And I felt like the Lord was really convicting me to find a local church. And then I found Cornerstone. And I started coming here.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I was going to ask actually, obviously you were brought up reading the Bible and all of that. How much do you feel you understood of the gospel at that time in comparison with later on, and how, you picked up your Bible again afterwards?
Yeah. Good question. I think I understood it in terms of Jesus died for our sins. Jesus died to save us. Yeah, I knew that because I'd heard it. But
you hadn't quite made it your own, maybe. Yeah,
I think for me, growing up, my faith was again it was about Jesus. I just I think I understood that was the level of my understanding, and then I knew Jesus as a friend. Like I genuinely believed in him growing up. I knew that he was a real person, and I knew that he was someone that he just was someone that I knew. And I think now I still know those two things, but then the theology and the doctrine behind it makes that richer for me. Is that when you understand what that actually really means in terms of like how the Bible explains the Old Testament, the prophecies, who he was, what he came to do, and the fact that he is your friend. How that, when you understand how it's possible that he is your friend, that just, it's mind-blowing, and it enriches your relationship with him. So that's it's been a journey coming to understand that, I think, in maturity. And I think I'm still trying to understand that. I
think we can't fully understand it, can we? But But it's interesting as well through your story how obviously you've experienced it as well. It's not just a knowledge thing of actually you knew it. You knew it kind of as a child, but then because you drifted away, and even if you hadn't, but you got to actually experience what that practically means, to actually turn to him. And you said this yourself, you don't know why you felt you had to turn to him in prayer at that point, but actually now you do know why. And it's, I think it's the Lord's mercy that he gives us these experiences that it can't just be a head knowledge, because at this point so many people have this knowledge in a way, but they're not following Jesus. So I think that's just the mercy of God, isn't it?
100%.
Great. Okay. And so obviously you've continued growing in your faith after that. Is there anything in particular that you feel you learned in these years, not necessarily at Cornerstone, but even before? I don't know. I feel like the Lord is constantly taking me on a journey of learning. As all of us.
I think last year, I'll say, was probably one of the hardest years for me spiritually. Because I think a lot just happened. I feel like I've been quite fortunate in terms of I hear people that say like, I've struggled to hear God's voice, or I've struggled with this or that or whatever. I've always felt, apart from obviously times when I drifted, but I feel like I've just always been sure of like, not God's plan. I don't know how to say that. I've just always felt like, God has got me or whatever. And I think last year was the first time where I felt lost as a Christian, as in like knowing God and being like, I don't know what you're doing here. I don't know. This is just completely left field.
Sometimes there's changes that happen and you're just not quite sure where we stand.
And I think it was God's mercy to allow that to happen, because I feel like when that happens, he's really just pulling you deeper into himself to know you, to get you to know him a bit more. So I think what he's been teaching me recently is to trust him and to lean on him, and to just trust, and how much that he uses his people and the church specifically through you getting to know him. I feel like even though last year was difficult, it was also one of the years that I grew more spiritually, because I started serving on youth. I just got more involved in the church in ways that have been so blessing and enriching to me, that I don't think it would have happened if those circumstances hadn't arisen. So
that's fair enough. And it's interesting because you might think in these situations to actually withdraw almost and not to serve, but in a way sometimes because you're serving, it's helping you more. And I think that is my personality type, and I think I am used to withdrawing. I think the Lord was using that to teach me that is not the thing to do. You need to press into your brothers and sisters when you're doing that, because we need each other. That's great. And lastly, I guess maybe you've answered that question already, but is there any specific advice you would give to a younger Christian?
It's just to trust God. He's just so infinitely like wise and good and caring and loving, and like everything he does is planned out, and it's for your good, deeply for your good. And I think the Lord has just been teaching me to just stand on his word and trust him when he says that he is the great I am. He is the one that's in control, and that he is constantly watching over you, and that he will he will fulfill the work that he has begun in you. So just trust God, regardless of the situations, whether things look good or things look bad. Everything is ultimately good. So just trust him and thank him in the moment, regardless of what you're going through, I think would be my...
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. Great. Well, thank you so much, Canitta, for sharing your story with us.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's all right. Pleasure. And that's all for today's episode of Sister Stories, but join us again next time.